Welcome to Leading the Pack, the Show Safe podcast. I'm Lydia Frey, your host, and I'm here with Octavia Stensen and our guest today, Angela Lloyd. We're back in part 2 of this interview with Angie, discussing her juniors career, her Westminster Best Junior win, and onto her professional career.
I think it's so important that as juniors you are active in all the things that you can be an active part in, like if you have a dog change, that the junior is doing the paperwork for that. You know, I understand that you have to learn to do it. And I think it comes from the fact that I didn't travel with my parents to the dog shows because my parents were off at horse shows. So I was always traveling with handlers or other people or friends to dog shows. So if I had a dog change, I had to do that paperwork. Or if I had a class change or something like that, I had to do the paperwork for it there. And I would have to go up to the super desk and ask which form to use. And they'd be like, this is, use the catalog and fill it out. And then they'd check it and then they'd tell me what I did wrong. And then I'd fix it. And then they'd recheck it. And then, all of that. And I think it's so important that kids learn how to do those important things, because one day, you might be at a show working for a handler and the person you're working for may say, hey, I need you to go move that dog up. And you need to know how to do that. Or you may have your own dog and you need to know how to move it up. Whatever the situation is. I think those are just like skills, again, that come in. Those aren't even husbandry skills. Those are just independent skills that I think are so important in our ways that juniors can learn. My mom would forget to enter dog shows. So at like 13, I started doing my own juniors entries because she kept missing entries for dog shows because she was busy. So I started entering my own dog shows. So from the time I was about 13, I would enter the dog shows myself. Luckily, by then everything was digital and you could do it online. Again, like that's just a wild concept to most people. They were like, you did your own entries? And I was like, only if I wanted to go to the dog show.
Well, I mean, yeah. For myself, like my father would say, okay, he'd show me one time, this is how you do it.
Right. Like, this is the form.
This is how you do it.
Right.
And then it was up to you. He would turn the entry in or something, but I would make my entry.
Yeah,
every time.
Would fill out the form and
this is I think at that point in time the dial-in entry existed. You call an 800 number and enter your dog through an entry service. Online entries. We were handing them in or mailing them in.
Exactly, and I do think it would be a foreign concept to many people, not just juniors, but to many people. Of like taking a blank entry form and like writing in the kennel club and all of that information. But I remember having to do that for some shows. And I remember I remember being like, this is fun, fill out the form. And I knew my dog's registration number by heart. And I knew my junior's number by heart. And it's so funny to me now. I'm like, how did I remember all of those numbers and the dates of my dog's parents' names and everything? Like I had everything so memorized so that I could fill out those forms.
Yes. And I think that also creates stronger, I don't know how else to put it, but like stronger advocates in the sport. Maybe not advocates is the right word, but stronger individuals and more knowledgeable individuals in the sport. Because, I mean, if you think about it, ideally, these kids are showing in junior showmanship so that they can someday progress on further, become handlers, breeders, owner handlers, just continue in the sport and while having fun in juniors as well. But like, they still need to understand how to do all this stuff, because when they turn 18 and their parents start going and they want to go to a show by themselves or whatever, or they take their own car, like then what? You know what I mean? Like then they're like, no, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like it just makes, I think, more knowledgeable individuals in this sport, which I think is always important, because I think knowledge is so powerful and creates.
Absolutely. Speaking of knowledge, maybe you could talk to us, and Octavia, I think it's important that you talk to us as well about balancing school and shows, because Angie, I know you graduated college and Octavia has, in my opinion, an outrageously difficult major.
Thank you.
Obviously, I did it as well. I think I had a slight advantage because my parents were used to kids being in horse shows. They were used to kids skipping a lot of school in their lives. So they were
Yeah.
pretty okay with it and pretty supportive of that. But obviously that's I think a newer thing too of kids skipping school activities.
Absolutely. I know when I was a junior, there were maybe like a few handful of people that I knew that were competing that were being homeschooled, but not that many. And so, high school, I went. There were very few days where I got signed out of school and that we had to make that work. In the fall, it was hard because I was always like, I would rather go to the dog show. And my dad would say, sorry, we're not leaving until after school on Friday. You're going to show on Saturday and Sunday. That meant, that was hard for him. It was a lot of overnight drives and things like that. But he knew I was interested and dedicated, and we did it. There were obviously times where I would have to skip school, like Westminster Kennel Club was one of those occasions. I was a good student. So, when we went to the school and said, hey, this is going on, they didn't really tell us no. So that was a good thing. College, I really just wanted to go. So it was one of those sacrifices. It was, going to be a temporary thing. I had scholarships that I was using. I was able to go to schools that were located within a region where I could still work for the handler that I was working for on the weekends and do my summer work. And I made my class schedule in a way that if I could, I had a Friday morning class or no Friday class, which is very hard to do. But that would mean if I had an 8 a.m. Friday class, that would mean I had an 8 a.m. Monday class too, because it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yep.
So, but you make your choices and you make your sacrifices, and on you go. I think as a rarity, there was 1 year in college in the summertime that I did not attend many dog shows, and that was for an internship that I did through the summer, which was also another invaluable experience. So that was with Penske Truck Leasing, their corporate headquarters and internal audit department. And if you can imagine, they sent me around various locations in the country on an airplane to do work. And I'm like, what internship does this?
Yeah, that's incredible.
That's amazing.
You're like 99, 2000 time, 2000 time frame. So it was a great experience, a lot of fun. But, thinking back on that, like, that didn't bother me to do because of all the traveling I had done growing up, So I wasn't afraid to get on an airplane by myself and go somewhere and be by myself and to do a job by myself.
Yes.
A wonderful skill set that dog shows can provide, gaining self-confidence and independence. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
David, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experiences, because I know you've done some kind of abroad experiences as well, and you have a really interesting and in-depth major.
Yeah. So my major in college is Chinese language and culture, which is, a lot of people say when you're learning a language that's like having a full-time job, and I already have a part-time job, so it's like how do I balance this? When I first heard that, it was only like I was already 6 months into the major, and I was like, could somebody have let me know that any sooner? Like, not that it would have changed anything, but it definitely like did put some weight on me, because for me personally, I have such a passion for two very different things that don't connect at all. I have this deep passion for college and learning and Mandarin and learning this language. And then on the other hand, I have this deep passion that has been with me since, I was 9 years old, of like learning about animals and assisting and becoming a professional handler. Like, those are all goals and things that I want in life. And so like I have this like constant like pull, like every time I go to a dog show, I'm like, I just want to spend all my time at the dog show. And then I go back to class on Monday and I'm like, I just want to spend all my time learning Chinese. And I'm like, it's honestly, I don't know if I will actually find a balance, since I will be going into my last year of school in the fall. And I know that like it's a struggle that I've had literally since I've been in middle school, of like how to balance school and dogs. And I think it's I don't really think there is a genuine balance. I think that people who have found a balance maybe can teach me their ways because like for me, I don't know if it's a lack of time management or what it might be, but I pour my heart and soul into something when I'm really passionate about it. And so to try and separate and give half and half to two different things is very difficult for me. So finding a true balance, I don't know if it's out there. Maybe it is. I'm still trying to find it and navigate my way through college and dogs and everything like that because there's two things I'm so passionate about. I think there is a certain level of balance, but I don't think there is ever a 50-50. So like coming to terms with that myself and being like, I will not find a perfect balance was almost better for me to hear that than any sort of do this to find balance, do that to find balance. It's like there is no perfect balance, just like there's nothing perfect in life, really. Like you will not find that perfection, but there is ways that you can make it as close as possible or give your time here and not there or both. And I don't know. That's my personal experience. Studying abroad was fantastic. Last summer, I went to China and I spent 6 weeks there. And that was just like Angie, like your internship, like it was, I wouldn't trade that for the world. For the 6 weeks of dog shows that I missed, like that was worth it because I always know that there will be another show. And I don't know when the next time I'll be able to travel to China will be, hopefully in the next 5 years. But who knows, like, so those things, you really do need to jump on them while you can. And I mean, you're only in college for so long, the 4 years, 5 years, for me, only 3, for some, a lot longer. So I think it is important to prioritize what feels right to you and what feels right in your heart. I mean, school always comes first to me, which is another reason why I'm so like torn between the two because ever since I was a kid, school has always been first. I've always been a very good student, always tried to keep my GPA as high as possible. Still now in college, having a 3.9 GPA, and trying to keep that up is just, it's not easy taking, high level college classes, but you make it work when you want to. And I don't need to put myself through this pain. I could be getting C's, but I choose not to. So I don't know. It's all about what feels right to you, I think, because I don't think that I would find a balance if it was, if it was possible. I think I would have found it at this point. I just think it's all about what feels right to you and your personal life. So I don't know, maybe you guys can shed some light to me on how to find that balance. But for me, I'm just so passionate about the two that it's hard.
I think listening to you, Octavia, number one, like you've answered your own questions through all that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think Lydia and I both can tell you, do your schoolwork, the dogs will be there.
Exactly. That's exactly.
There are faithful companions and they'll be there and the shows will be there too, if we're lucky. But, that's one thing, you talk about shows, even say leadership, adaptability is one of those things that's a big thing when you come down into leadership. And you're talking exactly that. How do you adapt within whatever situation you're given? And I think our dogs teach us that the best, truly. Because they're like Tony going to the World Dog Show in Italy. He's so tired, but he's doing whatever you want him to do. He's adapting as best he can. They really are. They really are our best teachers. They really are.
Absolutely. And I think, Octavia, it's so admirable how active you stayed in dogs through through a college experience, and through a major that I think most people would be like, I don't have time for anything else. And I can only do this. And it's so great to see you still experiencing your passion with the dogs and still, enjoying your passion and still working and learning and having an intensive job. We were just discussing how you just road trip to Oklahoma City from Washington State. I mean, you're not just hitting up a local show once a month. You guys are hitting it pretty hard. You're currently working.
Summer, I try and take on as much as I can.
But that says a lot. I think most people during their summer free time would be like, the last thing I want to do is wake up at 5 a.m. to go walk dogs in Oklahoma City.
Absolutely. And just what a passion can do, you're
choosing people in your life who will push you to be great and do great in all avenues in your life, not just the avenue that they are involved in.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Shout out Andy.
Shout out Andy.
Shout
Yes.
out Andy.
The living legend.
Literally.
The living legend.
Angie, can you tell us about who you worked for while you were in college?
Yeah, I worked for Bobby Fowler for the entirety of 10 years and his wife, Jane. And at that point in time, he was really strictly showing dachshunds. For his main account was Mrs. Isabel Robeson. And, the wonderful thing about the dachshunds and working with them was they're very stubborn and they make the best teachers. So, like, in respect to them, like, you really have to make them think that whatever you're doing is something that's their idea. And so in that respect, it was a wonderful way to learn how dogs think in some fashion. And, there are 3 different varieties. So I had 3 different coat textures to learn upon. Later on, after college, I kind of went more into the sporting dogs and worked for Andrew Doyle for about a year and a half. And then I kind of went off and did some stuff on my own. And around 2005, January 2005, I started really showing on my own as a professional. So, at that time, I have to really say, like, Gwen DeMilta was a huge part in my life. She played a major role throughout my life from teenagehood up until we lost her a couple years ago. When I decided that I wanted to try to be a handler on my own, and I wasn't really, like many, you don't have, the truck, you don't have the house, you don't have the things. And she said, why don't you come? I could use someone to help me on the Florida circuit. You can bring your 2 dogs, you can help me, and we'll get going. And she's the reason why it worked. She's really one of the key players in why my career happened in dogs as a professional. Truly. Many others were involved as well. Truly. Many, many others. But the one where I could say that I was able to stand up was Gwen. That's all. She allowed that to happen. You have to embrace those people. And, when someone extends a hand, try to take it, because the people that are extending it, they're not doing it because they don't want to. They want to help people along. And you'll see that in this sport. A lot of people do want to help. And at times it may come across as like maybe they're not so helpful. But, the intention is there mostly.
Yes.
I know Octavia and I have discussed this before, how there are so many great dog people who, if you have a question and you ask them, 99% of the time, they will give you an answer and they will help you. And they will, if you have an honest question, you're like, I just, is there some, an honest conditioning question or something, they will help you and give you an honest answer in a way that is going to better you. We discussed how really the best people in the sport, they really will help you if you have a question. And if you are like, hi, do you have 5 minutes? Like, I just have a question. And even though you may be scared and intimidated to go up to them, it doesn't mean that they're going to tell you no. Most of the people you can go up to and be like, hi, like maybe they exhibit your breed, or maybe that they can do your type of code or whatever it is. And you're like, I just have a question. And that can, it can form a relationship, and maybe it just teaches you something. But those are, I think, such important moments that we have in the sport, and that honestly I think are available, and people helping people is real.
Absolutely.
As you've experienced, I know.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that. And, truly, even if it's not the right moment, someone might say, can you come back in later,
exactly,
a different time? Or also, the one thing to always remember is everyone doing this started somewhere. We all learned something along the way through various avenues, and not one way to do something is like the absolute way. That's one beauty of this sport that we have, is like there's a lot of different ways to work with our dogs, or, different grooming techniques that you can utilize, and never stop learning. I mean, I learn something every day, whether it's something as simple as a friend of mine telling me like one music artist was in a group from years ago, and it was a simple name that I told her no, that wasn't the case, but it was a different name. And I looked up whoever the other person was, and I learned something new. She learned something new. But you can relate that to anything. And I think that's one of the things too. If you never stop learning, you're always going to be someone that is open to those experiences that are going to teach others or help others along. There's absolutely no reason, we can bring this into sportsmanship even right now. Like, there's no reason why you can't be happy for your peers. It doesn't affect you. You're working on what your goal is. They're achieving theirs. Be happy for them. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. We need to remember that we're all here for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
The main thing in all of it is just definitely it's got to be about the dog. Our dogs are what's leading us forward. And, if you look around, there's a lot happening in the world. And how great is it to like come home and be able to sit on the couch and, just hug them. It makes it a lot easier. But also we have to remember that we have to support the new people coming in, and we have to preserve what's around us, so that it doesn't disappear. If you're getting involved in the sport, get involved in breeding too, get involved in being a preservation breeder so that these dogs can go forward for what they were meant for.
Absolutely.
I think that's something where the junior handlers, that's another gap I think that's missing that with junior handling. Like, let's bring some focus more on learning about breeds, not just how to show them.
Absolutely. I think that a sense of ego, again, this is not a jab towards anybody individually, but I can say for myself too, as a junior handler or a previous junior handler, we do get ego caught up in this. I mean, dog shows is half ego if we think about it. There has to be a certain amount of ego. You think that your dog's the best in there, or maybe you don't, or maybe you know that your dog isn't the best
You're
in there.
Pretend they're the best in there.
Pretend at least that they are the best in there. And we get this ego caught up into it, and that we need to be the best ourselves. And then we do start getting away from the fact that our dog comes first, and you have to step back and be what's this all about? Why are we here? How did we get here? How did our dog get here? And what can I do to support that and support our future generations? Even if you're 15, there's still future generations coming after you, get involved with a breeder. Find just any way that you can stay involved in this sport and continue to support our past and future generations, even as a young individual. It's never too early to start, I think.
Yeah. I know, as I've told you both, when I first got into dogs, it's becoming harder, more elusive, I should say, to find great local handling classes. But anyone who has been fortunate enough to experience those understands how great they are and how vital they are to the sport. And I know when I first started and I was 9, I met Angie's father at the local handling class. And that's how I really got in and heard about great people showing dogs and handling dogs and big winning dogs. And I had kind of known about these things, but my most extensive dog show experience had been watching it on TV. So it wasn't until that community offer, that personal touch, that connection is made, that you start to go, okay, this is really interesting. I'm going to continue to come to handling class every week and see what it's about. And that was I think the Old Dominion Kennel Club was those handling classes. It might have been Warrenton Kennel Club. They were in Warrenton.
Yeah, I think they were in Warrenton. Do you remember where they were?
Yeah, it was in Warrenton by the old YMCA.
Yeah, so that would in that little armory that they don't want to use anymore for anything.
I go to those shows pretty frequently. I know, Angie, you go to those shows every year.
Quite a bit.
When you're a local in this area, that's a hometown can't miss show, and it's quite a good size show for the area too. And you meet people, and that's how you get involved. And that's how I learned who Angie Lloyd was going to those handling classes every week, and that's how I started meeting people and figuring things out. It wasn't easy, but you just start going, and then you just keep going. And that's so important. I remember I was the only junior in the handling class, but I just kept going every week. I had a standard schnauzer who was very confused why we were doing these activities, but we kept going. We kept doing it.
Each step is a good step.
Exactly. Angie, we'd love to hear, some quick fire questions for you. You've had some incredible highlights in your career. You've shown national specialty winners, multiple national specialty winners, multiple All-Breed Best in Show winners in various breeds and groups. You've won Best in Show at Westminster. What is your most sentimental win to you?
I would absolutely say, obviously, Best Junior at Westminster was it still is a big highlight to me. It set the tone. And after that, I think the first time that I won a variety at the national specialty at the Dachshund Club of America, that dog went on to then win the group at the AKC Invitational when it was like a January in Tampa in 2006. That was a little dachshund named Amos, and he was cutie patootie. And I got to share his life until he was 17. He lived with me. That was a lot of fun. Ultimately, his owners said, "You can keep him." It was a great thing. And he was a great companion. He was a wonderful boy. Hickory taught me so much. Scottish Deerhound bitch. I don't know how many people know it, but the summer before she was Best in Show at Westminster, she'd loaded full torsion, was at the Bryn Mawr shows in June, hot, and it was Friday night. And happened to be local to where Gwen and Carissa live, so they knew where to send me. And the vets there in Malvern, Pennsylvania saved her life, and we got her rehabbed. Now, she is owned by a veterinarian, Dr. Dove, and his wife, Celia.
I go to Dr. Dove.
He's pretty famous in his own right. But, they got her stable. I stayed in Pennsylvania until, she was able to come home. I brought her home. We got home and they met me in my driveway with a whole bunch of stuff and said, "You can take care of her." So you talk about wins and accolades, and you have your veterinarian standing in your driveway saying, "We trust you to rehab this dog." I think that in itself, I'm still in awe over it. So we got her rehabbed, and the first show back was Morrison Essex of that year of 2010. And she really wasn't ready to be there. You could still see her shaving just a little bit. She might have needed a touch more fitness, but Gail Bonsigue was doing the group, and she was a great breeder of the breed. And she got a group 3, and I was so elated by that because I thought, okay, we came back. And so we came back. And, that in itself is, you have to remember, through your time in dogs or life in any way, there's going to be times where it feels like you fall down, or things didn't go the way you planned. But just because that happened doesn't mean you have to stop. It means more like you just have to get back up. You got to keep riding. So, to then move forward from that October and, go through the rest of that year and get to the Garden and have the unthinkable happen, because no one goes to the Garden saying, my dog's going to go Best in Show at Westminster. And then it actually happens. It's very random that those things happen. As we all know, on the day and being in those environments of high stress and energy and excitement, things can happen. She had a great night that night. I don't think there was a day she ever showed better. So, you talk about specific dogs, I would say she's probably at the top for me.
It's pretty hard to top that journey.
After that, she had a daughter that taught me a lot. There was a deerhound that I showed in the group at the Garden one year, and she stopped walking. I don't know if anybody remembers that. That was Hickory's daughter.
But I
Chelsea.
Do you think that this is such an important comment, though? I don't know if anybody remembers that, because you as a handler always remember when things go so terribly wrong.
That's all
you were like, and you're like, remember that time that my dog stopped walking, and we're all like,
no. Yeah, I remember.
It's fine.
I remember it vividly. That's okay. And it was humbling in a lot of respects, obviously, but I felt mostly just pain in my heart for my dog, because she was like, this floor is moving and I'm not going.
Right.
This floor under my feet is moving. And that's another thing about Westminster and big venues like that. You don't you don't know, you can't replicate those places.
Yeah. No.
As far as training is concerned. So you get into these environments, and again, they tell us, the dogs will tell us they're not a robot. So you work with it and go forward. But that is the mother to Claire, who was the number 3 dog all breeds and top hound just a few years ago in 2021. You know, that whole bloodline of dogs has been such a gift.
Yeah. And I can only
to myself, to my heart, to my career, to so many, for so many reasons. I could go on and on.
I can imagine the relationship you've built with the people involved.
Well, you know, just like anybody can talk to you about the relationships they build in dogs. You make family.
Yeah.
They become family.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that answers that.
Did you ever expect one day when you were a girl and you were like, I want to show English setters, that you'd become famous showing Scottish Deerhound?
No. You know, randomly, I had, you know, started showing dogs on my own. And when I say like 2005, 2006. And then when I got established enough where I could get in my own place, I came back to Virginia because my parents are in this area. And I had not been here very long, and I had a dog emergency with one of my flat-coated retrievers. It took me into Dr. Dove's office. And, you know, the last thing you want to do is meet your vet for the first time when they're having an obstruction surgery, right? This girl walks in. Luckily, he knew my dad, you know. Jimmy Lloyd, he comes in handy. Difficult, but comes in handy. You know, not long after that, I think I went for that dog's like post-op appointment, follow-up appointment. And Dr. Dove kind of said to me, I've got a question for you. Would you ever consider showing a Scottish Deerhound? My wife has this really nice one that she just won the Futurity at the National with. And I said, sure, I'd love to take a look at her. That would be great. And we did that. And that was Hickory.
So wild. But I think such a testament too. I mean, clearly they trusted your judgment, and you clearly took great care of that dog in its time of need. And then you later got trusted with Hickory's care in her time of need too.
Right. I mean, you know, so many things. But, you know, they keep it real, these dogs. They keep it real. Absolutely.
Dogs always keep you humble in the most real of ways, where there's nothing you can do. You can't fault them for it.
And to go on from that slightly, as a professional handler, you know, you're looking at a breed for the first time. You're reading the breed standard. It's not a very long one for Scottish Deerhounds. And I'm looking at her, and I said, take her up and back and go over her and all this stuff. And I'm standing there thinking, I don't know if I'm just like naive or just not very smart, but like I can't find anything really wrong with her. Like she looks like it says to me.
That's so. I love that you're reading the standard and looking at her at this.
Well, but I mean that's a must. These are things we must do.
I love how genuine that is. I love how real and genuine that is. You know, we talk to a lot of times we look at these top show dogs, and I think the handlers, maybe not even handlers, but their owners look at them and they're like, well, they're just so special. And whether they are or aren't, you know, people will kind of blindly put their faith and money into dogs that they believe in, whether they're really critically looking at them or not. And I think that's such a genuine, special moment of, you know, you're all there critically looking at this dog and going, yeah, like, I think there's really something here.
I think at the moment, I think Cecilia Dove was like, okay, but you're not saying a whole lot. What do you think? And I'm like, I think she's lovely. I let's do it. Off we went. Through that time frame, we're very fortunate to have had Sally Sweat sign on and gain support, you know, financially to further her career, and then, you know, and go on further with that. And then, you know, to her breeders, a testament of producing more dogs that were of quality. You know,
wow, that's such a great story. I just love how genuine that is of you all looking at her and reading the standard. I just think that's
when you talk about like the show dogs and great show dogs and things like that. A lot of times, show dogs are great, or conformation dogs that rise to the top of our statistics levels are so great because they put on a performance.
And well, exactly.
It's very hard to find one that really putting on the performance and also meeting their breed standard. Sometimes you get one or the other,
right?
And it doesn't always happen together.
And I just not to sound ugly, but I wouldn't say it's in the correct of a deerhound's nature to be a full-on putting on a performance show dog.
Not at all.
You certainly have breeds who are maybe more prone or apt to being performers than others. Like as you said, you can have really good ones like her daughter, but if they don't want to walk, it's a lot easier to convince a golden retriever who's very food motivated that they can
Absolutely
any flooring than it is a
Yes.
deerhound who is already suspicious of walking on grass that they don't know.
Like, this smells.
This smells weird.
Right.
Like dogs have already walked on this, and I don't like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's true. They all have their own nature, own, and it's to be, part of their breed. It's part of their disposition. And that happens across the board in lots of other breeds.
Yeah. Well, I just love your journey and how many people have been a part of your journey and are still a part. I know you have several really great friends that you are very close with in the dog world that you are try and see as often as you can at dog shows. And I think that's so important that we have people like that keep us grounded and keep us real and also keep us motivated at times when we're like, why are we at this truck stop getting fuel and trying to find a patch of grass? So I think that's so great the way you've had not only a normal life in school, but also developed this career and passion in life and dogs.
Well, very lucky.
I have one parting question for you as we
Okay.
wrap up this lovely segment. Is there one thing that you wish you could have told your past self before you won Best in Show, before you won Best Junior, somewhere in between? It can be anywhere along the line of your career. What do you wish you could have known sooner? Or what do you wish you could have gone back and just told yourself, like told your past self something, anything?
The funny thing is that, and it's going to sound kind of cliche, I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Okay, that's absolutely fine.
Because the path that I took ended how it ended. Like it got me where it got me. And I think that as we move through life and as we move through life with our dogs, like you really have to trust the process and enjoy the journey. Sometimes if you hit a wall where like something's not panning out, maybe there's a reason, let's take a step back and like refocus and reevaluate. It's always good to always be, looking for the next option, the next opportunity. My mentors in dachshunds, like they taught me, like you have to keep thinking ahead. Like especially in breeding, like you've got to keep thinking 2 and 3 generations away. Like when you're doing your breeding now, like make sure you're building your pedigree that way. Don't just think for the moment. And there are times where you have to react in the moment. So you have to be able to have some forethought in maybe what you would do. It's always good to have plans and always good to have dreams, but it's also really nice to go into opportunities that you're excited about and walk away with like the big ribbon, so to speak. Not intending to, but like obviously everyone that's entered wants it.
I think that's a great. I think that's it. That you just have to. A lot of times you have to just trust the process, trust that it's working out. Whether it's maybe this dog is turning out, maybe this dog isn't turning out, maybe this show is going well or isn't going well, or maybe this dog is unexpectedly winning that you didn't think about, or any of that. You have to be open to what comes and be ready to also develop and move past it.
Exactly. It's a key component.
Agreed. All of it happens for a reason as well. So I love your response. I think it all gets us where we are now. So no point in changing the past if we're all here anyways.
Exactly. Well, can't thank you enough, Angie, for coming on and talking to us and imparting your wisdom and experiences with us. And Octavia, thank you for sharing your wisdom and experiences. I know we've all had different paths and juniors and kind of experiences that have all somehow ended up at the same conclusion and goal achieving, which is very fun, but also very interesting just to see how the sport is changing and progressing. And I can imagine it will continue to change and progress as the years to come.
So, yes, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And I hope everybody who's listening enjoys.